Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April. I hope you're well. Using the Crow Tarot for you today. At the beginning of the year I did a 6-month overview for each of the signs over on Vimeo. And given that we are now halfway through that 6-month period, it seemed like a good time to reduce the price of that. So if you haven't checked it out yet and you're interested, go and have a look at it. I think it's literally just a couple of quid. But at this point, it's not about the money. I just, would like people to hear what is in those readings. So there's a link down in the description box if you're interested in that, and there will be an extended at the end of this too if it resonates. And the link for that will also be in the description. Obviously, if you're on Patreon, you get access to all of the extended content as part of your the support tier. So, not the support tier, the higher tier. Anyway, let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Aries. Could I have 3 cards for Aries, please? Ooh, we have the Knight of Wands in your recent past. 2 cards for Aries. We have the 2 of Cups in your present. And what's coming towards Aries, please? We have the 7 of Pentacles for April for you. Let's have a look. We've got the Judgment card at the bottom of the deck, followed by the Queen of Swords. So, let's just pop that there and get a clarifying deck, which is standard right away. It's the right way around. Let's have a look. Let's give these a good shuffle, actually. So, where's the Knight of Wands here for Aries, please? Oh, we've got another Sagittarian card with Temperance, and we have the Knight of Cups in reverse. Okay. This 2 of Cups, please. We have the Ace of Pentacles, and we have the Ace of Cups. Interesting. Okay, and tell me about this 7 of Pentacles, please. Thank you. We have the Moon, and we have the 6 of Cups. Very cup orientated for you this month. We have the Page of Swords and the Queen of Wands, which is you, Aries, at the bottom of the deck. I have to say it's flanked by swords hierarchy, actually, because we've got the King on the other side of that. Now, the Page of Swords is sometimes a messenger, but I often see it as a card of mental expansion, whereby one is sort of accumulating new knowledge about something, and generally that tends to expand your mind because you are then able to kind of put things together that you might not have been able to do before. There's an element of movement implied, although it's not yet happening. It's kind of that point between looking back at the past and getting ready to move into the future. And that I find quite interesting because we also have a card that speaks specifically about making big decisions about something. This can be a card of giving, or being given a second chance about something. And that's highly possible. But I'm going with the judgment interpretation here because we've got this Queen of Swords looking at it, right? She is an information sifter to me. So you now have the Page, you have the King, and you have the Queen of Swords, all kind of nestling around big decisions that you need to make about something. So I'm going to have another deck to the side, just ready. I'm going to shut this fucking window. Because although it's been completely silent for the last 5 minutes before I started the video rolling, then suddenly all of the traffic's come. So, as you do, I'll get this deck here just ready. So the first card that you have in your recent past is the Knight of Wands. Now, this can be a good card, or it can be, a less good card if we're talking about relationships. And we really do seem to be talking about relationships. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 Cups cards on the table here. So good things about the Knight of Wands. It's Sagittarius energy, but it talks about living in the moment. Right? It's a big part of what this card is about. But the flip side of that is it's a fairly non-committal energy. Right? The Knight of Wands goes where the fun is, and once the fun stops, the Knight of Wands is out of there. And we have it then followed up by this Temperance card, which is also a good card, but it is also the card of Sagittarius. Now, this could be well kind of putting down the fact that we've got, you know, a Sagittarian in your midst who is giving you cause to need to make a decision about something. Because the other card that we had was the Knight of Cups in reverse. Now, I would be going with the more pleasant interpretations of the Sagittarian energy were it not for this here. Now, this is Piscean energy, but it's come out in the reverse. This way around, it's about really offering emotions either to someone else or having them offered to you. You know, the Knight in that case coming towards you. This is either a withdrawal of or a refusal to engage on this level, which is quite interesting. And I want to pull some more clarifiers, because this reading does seem a little bit like it's all over the place in terms of the cards that are down. Right, we've got positive cards, but we've got things kind of tempering that somewhat. And it actually feels to me, Aries, like you're really up in your head about something. So tell me about this. We have the Three of Wands, Knight of Wands, and the Page of Swords. Again, it really feels like you're needing to make a decision. You have been needing to make a decision, right? And it's with the Three of Wands here. That talks about sort of day to day how you live. You know. Yeah, see, we've got the Three of Swords flying out here now under the Temperance card. With the Devil and the Knight of Wands at the bottom of the deck. I think for this particular reading, we are dealing with somebody who has been potentially in a relationship, or at least skirting the possibility of having a relationship. But it feels like it's been operating on different levels between you and this other person. It feels to me like there was more investment on your side than there was on theirs. And it might be that you were dealing with a Sagittarius, but it might not. I mean, we've got an awful lot of characters on the table here. But I'm wondering if you're feeling like you've been a little manipulated, Aries. Now, I should say that this doesn't necessarily need to be a romantic relationship. This could be an interpersonal relationship of a different description, right? But it feels like there's been investment on your side and not on somebody else's, and this is starting to come to light now. With the Three of Swords and the Devil, I mean, that's a really awful set of cards to have together. I mean, the Devil is all those things that are manipulative and toxic and codependent and awful, and we've got this Three of Swords here, which is, you know, broken-hearted energy, and the Knight of Cups in reverse. It's, like I said, a withdrawal of or a refusal to engage on that sort of level. Cups in reverse, thank you. And we have the Nine of Swords. Yeah, you've been in a really bad way, Aries. This overthinking, anxiety, insomnia, you know, all of these things are indicated here by this. We've got the Nine of Cups at the bottom of the deck, and it really does feel like you thought you'd found your happy. You really did think you'd found your happy. But this has been, it feels like it was removed. Like underneath this King of Swords here, we've actually got the Magician. Now, the Magician is a very good card. It's a very powerful card. It speaks about intent and manifestation. But sometimes when it's coupled up with a cool card, it's something a little, feels a little more nefarious than that, because what we've got here is a master manipulator, and then we've got here, you know, somebody who is very, very good at expressing themselves. And when you get somebody who's very, very good at expressing themselves combined with quite a manipulative energy, That's quite cold, and it's quite emotionless. So we move to your present energy, and we have the Two of Cups, which is, you know, is a great card. It's a card of two people coming together in union, right? And it's clarified by these two aces here. We have the Ace of Pentacles and we have the Ace of Cups. Let's see it there. The light's really, I don't know quite why it's so bright in here because it's dull as shit outside. Right? This talks about new emotional beginnings, right? And a new start in the material here. Now, with those all together, that's the energy of going into a relationship rather than coming out of what you thought was a relationship, which seems to be the energy that's going on here, which is why I'm a little bit confused. This can often also talk about, you know, a renewal of and a reclamation of one's self-respect and things like that. And actually, if we saw these two cards together in the absence of the Two of Cups, then it could well be you kind of picking yourself and moving on and going, right, actually, no, I'm going to go and do this by myself. But this Two of Cups is about a bringing together, and that's, as I said, it doesn't really fit with the narrative that's forming here. Tell me about this Two of Cups. We have the Justice card. We have the King of Swords, and we have the Hanged Man. So we have we have this King of Swords reappearing here. You know, it's Aquarius energy. It can be a little bit emotionally distant. Emotions aren't really at the top of the priority list for the King of Swords sort of energy here, and it's flanked by Justice and the Hanged Man, which are cards of Libra and Pisces respectively. Could it be, Aries, that there's been here a change of heart by whoever this King of Swords is here? Because the Justice card talks about balance, right? It talks about equilibrium, but it does talk about justice. It talks about things, you know, going in your favor often. Can sometimes talk about karma and things like that, but it doesn't feel particularly relevant at this point. But all of these characters here are all pointing in the same way, which is interesting because it makes me feel like all of them refer to the King of Swords, right? In the Justice card, this old woman here is looking this way, and the King of Swords himself is looking this way, and there's a character hanging out of this tree here who is also looking that way, right? There's an alignment here, and there's been a change of perspective that has gone on, and it feels like that's why this is here, right? There's been a change of heart here, and so it's like, yes, it's time to start again. Actually, I will commit to this thing. You know, the thing is, though, Aries, I do feel like I need to strike, you know, a tone of warning here, because what I've just heard is that, you know, well, I say it all the time, right? The aces are the full potentiality of the suit that they represent. And so we have here emotion and we have commitment indicated by these two cards. But I made a vow to myself a long time ago, it feels like a long time ago now, never to be hoodwinked by potential. Just because I could see that potential in someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was going to go anywhere. You need to pluck that ace from where it is and do something with it before it becomes, you know, tangible, right? Particularly in the case of both of these aces. You know, we've got something very, very solid and something very, very ethereal between the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups. That said, you know, they are really, really good cards. Tell me about this. We've got the Fool. Now that's your card, Aries, and it is also the card of a new start. It's a card of starting again. This would explain why we have this Queen of Swords here needing to make a decision. Like, you've been left in a bad way by the way that this all kind of went down. But it looks like it's kind of shifting, and it looks like it's going in your favour. But the Page of Swords here feels like it's a need to adjust to the new information that came in. right? The Fool card also talks about trust. There's a great deal of trust involved with this. Well, when you're dealing with potential, there is sometimes just have to kind of run on pure trust. Very, very interesting. We've got the Six of Swords at the bottom of the deck, and I like this one in the John Bower because, you know, this woman's running to a safe distance, but she's leaving bloody footprints in the snow, right? So there's been some sort of wounding here, but movement is still occurring. Now for you, it seems to be with this, it was not exactly a new relationship, but sort of this new perspective, this new standing on what this relationship is. And again, I want to emphasize, it doesn't have to be romantic. This could be a friendship, this could be work colleagues, this could be a business partnership, even, you know, any of those things. So when we move into April, what we've got is the Seven of Pentacles. And of all of the Pentacles cards that could have shown up here, like, this is an interesting one, because this is a card of things not just not quite being right. And it's sort of asking you to sit with it and try and identify why it is not right, right? There's a question of whether one continues to invest in it or whether one divests all of the things that one has invested here, right? And starts again somewhere else. And it's interesting that for me, sevens are very spiritual numbers. They talk about kind of consolidation almost to me sometimes. What did my mind just connect that to? It went again. I had a little spark and then it disappeared. Yeah. Right, so the sixes are about movement. They're moving in a direction. The sevens feel like you've got to a safe distance and you can kind of stop and you can look at something and be like, how does this actually feel? It's quite present where the aces are not. The aces are almost, kind of quite futuristic. The opportunity is there and you need to be able to see the opportunity and the potential and see where it could go in order to take the steps and take that ace down and, do something with it. This one's present. This one's going, is this right? Is this panning out the way that I thought it would? And sometimes it will be, and that's a good thing. But sometimes they're not. And it's interesting because the two cards that we've got here underneath are the Moon and the Six of Cups. Now, more Cups energy. The Moon is the card of Cancer, and it talks about the things that are hidden, right? Sometimes it can talk about secrets, but I tend to prefer to interpret it in a kind of Jungian perspective and be looking at, what your subconscious is trying to tell you. Because you seem to have swung from one extreme to the other here, great sorrow here and great almost elation here, to then swing to the middle, to be very, very present, go, something's just a little bit off and I don't know what it is. It's because your subconscious is kind of getting involved here and it's being all like, hey, Aries, And we've got the Six of Cups. Now, the Six of Cups is a card of the past, right? So to it, we could be talking about, you may be realizing that the reason that you got so upset in the first place with something, in a kind of reflective sense, was because something about this situation had triggered an old wound, excuse me, that you forgot that you had. Your brain had just kind of zipped over it a little bit. It had really struck right at the heart of something that has plagued your subconscious for a long time, and now you see it clearly, right? And that, in that sense, is a really, really good thing, because what it means then is that you can adjust your behavior and your mindset accordingly. Maybe, maybe this situation was a huge overinvestment right from the start on you, right? And actually what you did was completely overwhelm the other person with something, business colleague, friend, partner, whatever, and maybe you've actually had to kind of step back a little bit and go, okay, right, I was kind of launching myself straight into something that could have been, you know, quite codependent potentially. So this is, you know, that would be a really useful way of looking at this energy. But the other way that you can look at it is soulmate relationships, right? And this is when then it gets a little bit more muddy, because what we're talking about is a really, really strong connection, right? That you've thrown yourself into not once, but twice. And things got very tricky and very difficult for you here emotionally, and then they seem to have picked up again, but now your subconscious is saying something still isn't quite right about this situation, right? Remember again that the moon can talk about things that are hidden specifically from you. Tell me about the moon, please. Thank you. Ooh, we've got the Lovers in reverse. And we've got the Eight of Wands in reverse. Move one more for the moon. Right, that's 5. However, nice. There's the 3 of Pentacles. One more, please. Thank you. We have the Knight of Swords. We have the 8 of Swords at the bottom of the deck. This talks about being trapped, right? Not necessarily actually trapped in something, but sort of trapped up here by a method of thinking about things. And we can draw in that first interpretation there. Like, have you continued to do things the way that you have always done them? You know, was this all tragic, and then suddenly it seemed like just there was a silver lining, and actually everything turned out all right in the end? And you've gone straight back into an overinvestment, right? We've got the 7 of Cups at the bottom of the deck here, underneath the 8 of Swords. Like, this talks about illusion. It talks about emotional confusion sometimes as well. You are feeling stuck here. And then we've got the Judgment card, right? The need to make a really major decision about this, right? Ooh. We have the Star underneath with the Queen of Cups. And I wonder if we're back to this being blinded by the potential, right? Hopes, desires for the future. We're kind of riding along on that rather than looking at what actually is in front of you here. So, in a more abstract way, this could even be talking about employment, you know? Right? Take it as it resonates to you. It is a general reading, remember. But there is, you know, that, and then, oh, but everything's okay, and then, I'm not actually even sure that I'm happy with this. No, right? So we have this Lover's card in reverse. It's the card of Gemini. That talks about conscious co-creation for me, right? It's a card of a choice, but it's about the act of stepping up and making the choice rather than picking one thing over another, right? It is you being very active in where your life goes forwards rather than reacting to everything. And to be honest, both of the energies here in the recent past and the present feel very reactive. So it talks about not seeing that you're being really reactive, or not knowing that you're just being reactive, right? We've got the 8 of Wands in reverse. Now, that way around, it can talk about communication, right? But it can also talk about momentum. And so this way around, it's a lack of communication or a lack of momentum, either of which are not particularly useful for the situation that you find yourself in right here. And then we have the 3 of Cups, and we have the Knight of Swords. And the other meaning of the 6 of Cups here is nostalgia, actually. You know, how much of what you're excited about in the present is actually coming from a nostalgic sense of kind of keeping everything the same, right? Remember this. So we have the 3 of Pentacles and we have the Knight of Swords here. The 3 of Pentacles is working together with other people, but I'll be honest, Aries, like this situation here, right, we've got that boy there kissing the feet of that woman. Right? In this situation, you don't feel like that woman to me. You feel like the boy down here. It feels a little bit like you've been made to feel incredibly grateful for something. You know, and you should be prostrating yourself at the feet of you know, whatever beneficent goddess has actually, you know, bestowed some new potential for you to invest in at, you know, in front of you. But actually all that this really involves is lots and lots of hard work for you. I'm looking at these mountains in the background, you know. I don't know about you, but I'm not too keen on kissing feet. Like, they're gross, you know. All these mountains at the back. It looks like it's actually just made loads and loads of work for you, and you don't see it. Right? You don't see the challenges ahead in sticking with what you've invested in. And then we've got this Knight of Swords, which is interesting because this is Gemini energy as well. So we've got the kind of flanking the cards here. But this traditionally is the fastest knight in the deck, right? In the Waite-Smith here, like the Knight of Swords is going at such a pace that the horse actually looks terrified, right? There's real speed implied here, and and it talks about communication, right? So it's like really fast incoming communication about things. Sometimes, you know, a little hasty. But this knight is stock still, and it always strikes me as really, really odd in the John Bower deck that it is like this, but he's actually stopping and sniffing a flower. Right? Now you've got 3 knights here in this. And it feels to me, God, here I am again. It feels to me like this knight here, the one that deals with communication, has actually stopped up short. I was like, I'm just going to investigate this. What is ever? Oh, it's just a little bird. I thought it was a flower, but it's not. It's a little bird sitting on his hand. Looks like he's receiving a message from this little bird. And that feels like your intuition to me, Aries. It's kind of stopped you short and gone, oh, hang on. Am I being hasty here? Have I really fired into something that I should have thought about more consciously for a little bit before I did? Because at the normal rate of travel for this Knight of Swords, he wouldn't have even seen that bird, let alone been still enough to be able to have the bird land on his hand and tell him something. Huh. Second thoughts, maybe. But just something that's niggling about things not being right. Okay. This is really interesting, Aries. I'm going to go over to Vimeo now and take this apart a little bit and see if we can't work out what's going on for you. I think the fact that your intuition is speaking to you now is something that you should not ignore. You know, you can change your life in an instant. Right? Because you've committed to something, it doesn't mean that you need to stay committed to something. And I think that perhaps the fact that this niggle is occurring means that it's something that needs looking at a little bit more. So if you want to join me over there, that's all cool. We've got the description link. The link is in the description box below. If not, that's all cool. Just know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.